Hi, you guys. Welcome to the LifeHack Show. Thank you so much for joining us today. LifeHack was created to help all of us navigate this thing called adulting because we have been bamboozled to believe we should just have the process of adulting under control when in reality, we are all just trying to make it make sense one day and one moment at a time. I absolutely always appreciate the time that you choose to spend with us. Today, we're going to discuss what is the higher self. I don't know if you guys have been around, if you've been on social media lately, but apparently this is a buzzword. This is what everybody is talking about. And so I thought we would take a deeper dive and figure out what exactly this is so that when you hear it the next time, you can understand what it is. And so that maybe you can apply some of the topics that they're talking about to your personal life. So in discussing the higher self, you kind of have to start with the question of, are we all just a body with a personality? Now, from my understanding and from my research, we're all much more than that, and each one of us has something higher than just our body. That higher aspect has been typically called the higher self, so we're going to refer to it as that for these discussions. Some have also referred to it as the oversoul or the overself or the soul itself. And so then that leads us to another question of who and what exactly is the higher self. And in summation, the higher self is the intelligence and wisdom aspect of our own being, right? Of our own humanness. Ironically, the higher self is impersonal and it doesn't have a sense of self like the way our personality is. So it does not think of itself as itself. Unlike our personality that is very ego-driven, that is very, very focused on who it is as a being, our higher self is not. And the higher self serves as a guiding aspect for the personality and for parts of our ego. So another question that might come up is, can this elusive higher self that's part of us, can that actually be contacted? And thankfully for us, yes, it can. And typically it's done through things like meditation or some other type of altered state of consciousness or some purposeful state of tapping into that consciousness. So an example of this could be someone who's trying to really tap into their higher self, and they might think really, really hard about a subject, or they might have a question about a subject, and you might just be sitting there randomly asking yourself a series of questions about that topic. Sometimes you might start to receive visions, or you might receive little flashes of pictures or things that are attempting to answer whatever those queries are. A lot of times those visions are symbolic. A lot of times those visions are not necessarily things that you are familiar with, but it could be something that is addressing what you're asking. Your higher self in those instances is trying to communicate by sending impulsing symbols and visions that eventually form messages, and those messages eventually work their way into your awareness. And those messages can be transmissions that come through beyond your conscious mind. It'll come sometimes as a download. It could be, again, a burst of images. It'll look like pictures. It'll look like a movie. It might be symbols. It might be moods. A lot of times they're very fast. It could be split-second type of impressions. And the downloads seem to be received by the right hemisphere in your brain, right? They seem to be received and interpreted in that imagination space. Your brain then tries to instinctively attempt to interpret those transmissions, and in that interpretation it becomes part of your imagination, part of your ideas, your constructs, and what you are feeling about that situation. Sometimes those visions can be set against a light background. It could be a light blue background. Sometimes it's like purple, it could be like pink, and those things can start to form rings or bands of lighter colors as they're moving towards like a center point. Now, caveats, these transmissions are normally very, very fast, and sometimes you can really lose some of that vitality within that information. So you're really consciously trying to dial into what is happening. But overall, when you're thinking about that transmission and those pictures and that vision that you're getting, you want to think of connecting with your higher self as your more spiritual self, as your self that is not as biased or not as affected by the natural human cycle of being a human. Now, there are some practices and prompts that you can use to connect more fully with your higher self. Some of those things include creating space for doing so. So taking the time and the energy to just kind of sit down and ask yourself a series of questions and see what answers you get back. You can watch your breath, obviously. You can obviously watch your thoughts. You're going to want to be very, very gentle with yourself because this is not a forceful activity. This is not something that you're going to hammer down and all of a sudden you're going to have it. You're really trying to tap into something that you might not be used to doing. You also may hear the higher self referenced as the transcendental self or the Purusha. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But the Purusha in Sanskrit, as part of a yogic practice or transcendentalism, and the higher self in that practice is considered that divine self or part of that cosmic consciousness. And theoretically, your higher self is contrasted against your quote unquote lower self. And I don't mean higher and lower in regards to value. I mean higher and lower in regards to where it is and what it is. That lower self being that animal-like tendencies, instinctual parts that are deeply rooted in the system that we currently live in. And that main goal in that lower self is to survive and feel good. Whereas the higher self, the main goal there is to understand the meaning and the depth of the world. It's to understand the value that we get out of connection and the value that we get out of being human. Like, what is the human experience and what value do we get from that? That's really what your higher self is trying to answer on a regular basis. I do want to encourage you as you are continuing on your self-development, self-love, self-help, self-awareness journey, that you do want to start to tap into this higher sense of consciousness, whatever you call it, whatever you reference it as. You do want to begin to start to consciously pull from this area, because this area is the one that focuses on harmony. This is the area that focuses on continuity and not so much safety, but providing safety, providing a safe environment. This is the area that you're going to want to make sure that you are employing as you are becoming more aware of your mental state, more aware of your thoughts and your behaviors that are driven by those thoughts. If you need help in this area, I would highly encourage you guys to look a few places. There are so many different experts in higher self-consciousness that are online. You can find a lot of those free resources on YouTube right now, but also we have an academy that goes into topics like these, and it takes a deeper dive into some of these topics that help you activate your higher self and help you get more of a personal relationship with that higher self. Again, it's not free, but I will tell you it is the price of a fancy coffee or a fancy burger per month. And it's valuable in that it will help you with shortcuts and give you the hacks to life so that you don't have to find these things out on your own. So I would encourage you to take a look at that at your leisure. That link is found in the show notes. Again, you guys, I hope these lessons are helping. I hope you're finding value out of these. I love you, and I will talk to you guys later. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Hi, you guys.